and another one adalah satu adalah fraud triangle, betul lah, fraud triangle, and another one adalah fraud diamond. Okay, so basically dalam paper ni kita discuss pasal fraud triangle lah, tetapi kadang-kadang soalan juga akan tanya pasal fraud diamond. Tapi dia punya komponen more or less the same, cuma the way dia split it saja yang bezanya ya. Okay, so basically the factors that contribute kepada fraud and error adalah due to the incentive and pressure, opportunity, attitude and rationalization. Okay, kalau kat sini dia bagi you all some of the example of the fraudulent financial reporting is due to the incentive, is due to the opportunity, is the factors contribute due to the attitude. Okay, and next one adalah they explain about the misappropriation of asset. Okay, the factors that contribute kepada misappropriation of asset due to the incentive, due to the opportunity, and due to the attitude and rationalization. Okay, kemudian we discuss about AI 240. Dalam AI 240, MIA come out with the suggestion, okay, apa yang auditors need to do, okay, about the auditors responsibility as well as about management. Kita fokus kepada more on auditors lah ya. Kita fokus kepada auditors about our responsibility when come to fraud and error. Okay, kat sini juga dia explain the difference between fraud and error. Fraud adalah intentionally and error adalah unintentionally. Okay, so this one adalah some of the example of the fraudulent financial reporting lah. Okay, these are the things that can be done by client, okay, when deal dengan fraud and error. Okay, so kita habis sampai mana hari tu ya? Sampai sini, am I right? Betul tak?
Betul, Madam.
Yeah, okay. So we continue about fraud and error. Okay, okay, you baca dulu this one. Okay, the meaning of misappropriation of asset. Termasuklah macam dia curi aset company. Okay, it's not only dia curi aset company. Sometimes the employees also might steal the company's inventory lah. Okay, or use the inventory for their own benefit. Okay, so these are the example of the misappropriation of asset. Okay, now kita nak tengok the relationship between fraud to misstatement. Relationship of fraud. Okay, what are the relationship between fraud and misstatement of the financial information ataupun dalam you punya misstatement in financial statement lah. Okay, so basically katakanlah bahawa the client ataupun the employees ada fraud and error. Okay, ataupun ada fraud lah. For the example like misappropriation of asset. What they do adalah dia ambil the inventory 50,000. Let's say they steal inventory 50,000. Tetapi dalam our record, the value of inventory we do not, because kita tak tahu dia curi kan. So the is still at based on our store ledger card lah. Okay, okay, based on our store ledger card. Okay, so by doing that, tetapi kita punya actually our value of inventory dah drop by 50,000. Okay, why this thing happen? Because the cost of the internal control system lah. They have the internal control system, but the internal control system not be able to detect and prevent fraud and error. Jadi apa yang berlaku in the financial statement, the record of inventory and the amount stated in the balance sheet will be overstated by 50,000. Okay, dalam you punya financial statement, dalam you punya trading account, your inventory overstated by 50k. Okay, so bila inventory overstated by 50,000, so you punya profit also will be overstated by 50,000. Okay, and the same thing dalam your balance sheet, you punya asset, current asset will be overstated by 50,000. So this is the implication of fraud or error in the financial statement. Okay, so kalau orang curi tu memang satu curi kan. Another one adalah kita nak tengok the implication to the financial statement, either the implication is material or not material. Okay, faham ya kelas ya? And then this one, kalau you overstate dekat you punya financial state dalam you punya trading account 50,000, bila your profit increase by 50,000, it might influence the users to make the decisions. Okay, maybe orang akan interested to purchase ataupun to invest in your company due to this overstated of 50,000. Okay, kalau you overstated your inventory dalam your balance sheet by 50,000, it will affect you punya current ratio as well as acid test ratio. Your current ratio will be high, show better performance, and acid test ratio also show better performance. Okay, so it will affect the financial institution when the financial institution give you the credit. Okay, so the implication dia banyak ya. Kita nampak dia curi saja 50,000, okay, tetapi the implication kepada investor as well as to the financial institution to make the decision. Okay, so due to the inherent limitation, and our auditors basically will not be able to detect all material misstatement, okay, and express their opinion without rectify the overstated amount. So under this question, kita nak tengok sama ada the auditor should be liable or not for the overstated of inventory by 50,000, okay. Now kita tengok pula error. This one kita akan tengok later on bila kita discuss tajuk materiality, okay. So now kita akan tengok tajuk error. Error adalah unintentionally. Okay, unintentionally. So for the example like mathematical mistake, okay, you salah kira, casting you salah, okay. Misinterpretation of facts. Okay, you misinterpret the data. Okay, you get the information tetapi you misinterpret. For the example like you buat major repair on your asset, okay? So by major repair of the asset, it will increase the value of the asset and the useful life of the asset. Tetapi you misinterpret it. You record it ataupun you recognize it sebagai revenue expenditure. Sepatutnya dia adalah capital expenditure, okay? Next one adalah due to the misapplication of the accounting policy. Okay. Untuk misapplication of the accounting policy, kalau dia sama ada boleh intentionally ataupun dia boleh unintentionally. Kalau you intentionally misapply the accounting principle, that one will be categorized under fraud. Okay. Tetapi kalau you unintentionally misapply the accounting principle, that one will be categorized under error. Okay. So the main difference adalah satu adalah intention, another one adalah unintentionally. Okay. Okay, now kita nak discuss about the management responsibility and auditor's responsibility to detect and to prevent fraud and error. Selalu guna perkataan kalau fraud and error ataupun internal control system, always use the term to prevent and to detect. Kita bukan saja nak prevent ataupun kita bukan saja nak detect, tetapi kita juga nak prevent berlakunya fraud and error. Okay. Okay, mula-mula kita akan tengok about the management responsibility towards fraud and error. Okay. So basically it is main responsibility of BOD lah. Sebagai board of the directors, you have to come out with policy and procedures. Okay, so you are the top management kan. Top management memang kerja you adalah you kena come out, you kena determine company punya filosofi lah. Okay, you kena come out dengan policy and procedures, and then you kena develop ataupun ensure that the company has adequate internal control system. Kenapa you kena ada adequate internal control system? Because this internal control system will detect and prevent fraud and error. Okay, dan you kena buat monitoring, you kena buat review, you kena control, you have to fulfill you punya responsibility sebagai manager. Okay, sebagai manager, you punya responsibility adalah planning, controlling, coordination, evaluation, communication and decision making. Itu adalah the responsibility of top management. Okay, tetapi kalau kita tengok function of BOD ya kat sini ya, the function of BOD in relation to accounting function. Dia ada BOD, dia punya function dia as a manager and in relation to accounting. Okay, sebagai management, you punya responsibility in relation to accounting function adalah satu, you are responsible to prepare yearly financial statement. Nampak ya kelas ya? Yearly financial statement. The second one adalah sebagai top management, we have to safeguard the asset and record of the company. Bukan saja you kena safeguard the asset, tetapi the record. Kalau kita guna IT system, you kena safeguard the system lah. Okay. Kemudian you also need to establish adequate internal control system. Selalu guna perkataan adequate internal control system. Okay. And the last one adalah sebagai top management, you are responsible to prevent and detect fraud and error. Okay. So, faham ya kelas ya? Ini adalah BOD in relation to the responsibility of BOD in relation to accounting function. Okay. So, macam mana you nak fulfill you punya primary responsibility? So, it can be done through implementing and continue business operation within adequate accounting and internal control system. You boleh fulfill you punya responsibility by having adequate accounting and internal control system. Okay. So, apa yang you kena buat? Okay, sebagai top management, you have to do the following lah. Okay. You kena install effective accounting information system. You kena develop good internal control system. You kena ada internal audit. Kenapa tiba-tiba hilang kejap ya? Okay, you kena develop internal audit department. That's why for PIE, it is compulsory for PIE, a private interest entity, to have good internal control, to develop dia punya internal audit department. Okay. Kemudian you kena appoint audit committee. This one adalah mandatory lah ya. Untuk PIE, it is mandatory for them to have these two. Okay. Kemudian you sebagai company, you kena come out dengan policy and procedures. So at top management, you kena implement code of conduct. Okay. Setiap company, dia kena ada dia punya code and conduct. Okay. You kena list down do and don'ts. Apa yang employees boleh buat dan apa yang employees tak boleh buat. Okay. That's why kalau you kerja later on, okay, you akan dapati bahawa if you go different company, they will come out with different culture. Okay, some company they are very particular on certain part. Another company they are not particular on that part, but they are focused kepada benda-benda yang lain lah. That's why kalau kita pergi pada Japanese company, European company, US company, local company, Malay company, Chinese company, Indian company, so they might have different culture because for each company, dia ada their own philosophy. Okay. So apa yang penting adalah tak kisahlah you nak buat apa kan, tapi sebagai top management, you kena come out dengan policy and procedures, and then you have to develop code of ethics ataupun code of conduct in your company. Okay. Okay, next one kita akan tengok what is the auditor's responsibility. Okay, so our main responsibility sebagai auditor adalah kita kena express our opinion on the financial statement. Okay, sama ada the financial statement show true and fair view. And kita kena ensure that when client prepare the financial statement, they follow the requirement of accounting standard lah. So we need to determine sama ada kita nak issue unqualified audit report ataupun sekarang kita tak pakai unqualified ya. Kita guna perkataan, kalau you tengok dalam bylaw, kita dah guna perkataan unmodified. Okay. Sama ada you nak issue unmodified audit report ataupun you nak issue modified audit report. Okay. So before you express your opinion dalam accounting standard, dalam auditing standard mention clearly that when you conduct the audit, you have to follow the requirement of the auditing standard. Okay. So the auditing standard is designed to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statement are free from material misstatement. Selalu guna terms yang betul kelas ya. Guna perkataan, jangan guna perkataan misstatement, salah. Okay, kena guna perkataan material misstatement. Sebab misstatement tu ada ya, error tu ada. Okay. Tetapi kita cuba avoid adanya material misstatement. So kita dah ensure that the financial statement free daripada material misstatement due to default ataupun due to the error. Tetapi auditor is not and cannot be held responsible for the preventing and detecting fraud and error. Okay, kenapa? Because when we conduct the audit, kita ada inherent limitation. Okay, apa maksud inherent limitation? Meaning that bila kita conduct the audit, it is based on test. Kita akan buat some of the audit test dan kita akan conduct some of the audit procedures. Okay, so, and at the same time, bila kita conduct the audit, kita guna our professional judgment. Dan kadang-kadang kita punya professional judgment not 100% accurate. Sometimes it can be 90% accurate or it can be 95% saja accurate, not 100% accurate. Okay, and sometimes due to the inherent limitation of the internal control. Okay, so due to this inherent limitation, so we do not expect the auditors to detect all misstatement. Tetapi we do expect you to detect some of the material misstatement. Okay, tetapi walaupun macam tu, tetapi under certain situation, kadang-kadang the employees dia properly plan that material misstatement. Okay, so under certain situation, maybe kita boleh detect some of the misstatement, material misstatement, and some of the material misstatement will not be detected by the auditor. Faham ya kelas ya? Sebenarnya bukan kerja kita pun nak detect material misstatement kan. Basically it is the responsibility of management. Tetapi since we are competent, kita ada skill, kita ada knowledge, we do expect that you kalau benda tu obvious sangat, we should be able to detect that material misstatement. Tetapi under certain situation, some of the material misstatement will not be detected by auditor. Kenapa? Due to the inherent limitation. Okay. For another reasons why kita tak boleh nak detect some of the material misstatement adalah kadang-kadang fraud involves sophisticated and carefully planned by management. Okay. So that due to that, so auditor tak boleh bagi guarantee that all material misstatement will be detected. Jadi basically kita tak boleh nak blame auditor if the auditors not be able to detect the material misstatement. Tapi you kena ingat ya kelas, tetapi kalau you tak boleh detect material misstatement due to because you are not competent ataupun you skip some of the audit procedures ataupun your sample size is too small ataupun you are lack of knowledge, okay, kalau you tak boleh nak detect material misstatement due to all those factors, that one kita consider sebagai gross negligence, bukan lagi ordinary negligence. Faham ya kelas ya? Faham tak? Relate balik dengan tajuk risk audit legal liability. Boleh faham kelas? Are you still there?
Boleh, madam.
Petani you test apa? Exam test apa? Subjek apa?
Maaf 661.
Corporate finance ke? Bukan.
Strategic management.
Oh, okay. Tu you all sibuk study tu?
Tak madam.
Tak ya? Okay, betul-betul. Ni sebab topik ni dia memang susah sikit sebab dia berkaitan dengan previous topic and next topic, completing the audit nanti ya. So completing the audit pun kita akan ambil masa 3 minggu to cover that topic. Okay. So auditor's responsibility, jadi apa yang Malaysian Auditing Standard design, so apa yang they come out adalah dia design they come out dengan auditing standard to provide reasonable assurance so that auditor might be able to detect some of the material misstatement. Okay. So apa yang auditor need to do adalah number one, the auditors when we conduct the audit, we need to apply the professional skepticism. Professional skepticism meaning that the auditor cannot rely 100% of the information that they receive daripada top management. Because dalam diri you kena ada perasaan ragu-ragu. Maybe some of the information might not be accurate. Okay, so whatever information that you receive from management, and kalau you rasa the information adalah material, so we need to verify it by using other audit procedures. Okay, always apply professional skepticism when we conduct the audit. Faham ya kelas apa maksud professional skepticism? Meaning that you tak boleh nak percaya 100% kepada your client. Okay. Kemudian, a second one adalah we need to do the risk assessment. Okay. Risk assessment you akan buat during planning. Masa awal, masa mula-mula kan the audit process, mula-mula you akan investigate your client, sama ada you decide sama ada you want to accept or you tak nak accept the appointment or reappointment. Kemudian kita akan issue engagement letter. Okay. Selepas you issue engagement letter, kita akan buat audit planning. Okay. Dalam audit planning ni you akan determine the risk assessment lah. You akan determine sama ada the company ni high risk or low risk. Okay. Apa maksud high risk? High risk adalah there is a possibility that ada material misstatement and then we not be able to detect that material misstatement. Jadi bila kita issue audit report, kita akan issue inappropriate opinion on the financial statement. Faham ya kelas ya? Apa maksud saya? Faham ya? Okay. Meaning that macam you kata, oh okay, the financial statement show true and fair view, tetapi in real life ada material misstatement. Okay, that one kita panggil sebagai risk assessment. Apa yang you kena tahu bila you conduct that risk assessment? Kita conduct the risk assessment during the planning. Okay. The third one adalah selepas kita assess the client punya risk, kita akan buat detection. Detection ni kita akan conduct during the interim audit as well as final audit lah. Okay, kita akan buat some of the audit tests, audit procedures, okay, to detect if there is any fraud ataupun error. Okay. Now professional skepticism, baca kelas apa the meaning of professional skepticism. Question in mind, should maintain an attitude of professional skepticism throughout the audit. Kalau you rasa ada fraud, okay, jangan buat diam aja, okay. Kalau you rasa ada fraud, you mesti perform, kena buat further investigation. So macam mana you nak buat further investigation adalah maybe you boleh increase you punya sample size. Okay, so you boleh buat detail, guna perkataan detail kelas ya. So dalam this one dia banyak term sangat ya yang you kena tahu. You juga boleh buat detail substantive audit test, okay. Kalau biasa kita buat substantive audit test ya, sekarang you kena buat detail substantive audit test, kemudian you kena buat further investigation on that particular items lah. So dia bagi you the example untuk professional skepticism. Okay. Next one adalah kemudian apa yang auditor need to do adalah we need to do the risk assessment. Okay. Bila you nak buat risk assessment will be conducted during the planning stage. Okay. So the auditor should assess the risk that fraud and error may cause the financial statement to contain material misstatement. Okay. So condition, what are the factors that may contribute kepada risk of fraud? For the example like internal control, poor internal control, ataupun dia ada good internal control system tetapi the management override the internal control system. Okay. Second one adalah question with respect to the integrity. Management ada integrity issue, not honest, selalu bagi you false information, okay. Do not follow some of the accounting principle, do not follow the requirement of the regulator, try to influence you, okay. Kalau dia buat salah, dia try to influence you to agree with their decision, okay. Dominated by one person, not effective oversight by board, okay. High turnover, especially in accounts and finance department, and frequent change of the auditors, okay. Next one adalah the factors contribute kepada fraud adalah unusual pressure within or on an entity. Ada pressure daripada investor, shareholders, financial institution, okay? Or sometimes it's due to the industry decline and failure for increasing. The industry itself adalah decline. Inadequate working capital. Okay, negative net working capital. Okay, negative net working capital. So kadang-kadang it's due to the cost of company terlalu heavily depends on one or two product line. Okay? Kalau company tu terlalu depend, kalau dia tak diversify dia punya business, depend on one or two product line, the company being kita consider sebagai high risk company. Okay? Unusual transactions, for example like bank transaction, okay, transfer duit yang banyak kepada one party ataupun kepada other company, okay. So kita kena tengoklah other company tu sama ada related party transaction ataupun the management ada interest dekat the other company. Related party transaction especially pada year end, payment kepada excessive payment kepada professional body. For example kepada lawyer, engineer, quantity surveyor and so on, okay. Ataupun those yang revalue your asset, okay. Kemudian is due to the problem in obtaining audit evidence. For example like inadequate record, excessive adjustment, transaction not recorded, lack of proper authorization, excessive difference between client figures and third party confirmation, okay. For example like kalau you buat debtors confirmation and creditors confirmation, banyak sangat beza antara our record dengan confirmation that we obtain from debtors ataupun from the creditors, okay. So selepas kita buat the risk assessment, apa yang auditor kena dibuat after you dah buat risk assessment, So after risk assessment, the first thing that you need to do adalah we need to discuss dengan our team member. We discuss because this one akan affect you punya decision later on, especially bila you determine the materiality level dan bila you determine the sample size, okay. So you akan discuss dengan you punya team member indicating material misstatement, then you kena determine what are the implication of that misstatement to the financial statement later on, okay. Kemudian you juga kena buat interim audit. Okay, dalam interim audit, one of the thing yang you akan buat adalah you need to evaluate client internal control system. Okay, bila you evaluate client internal control system, okay, you akan identify if there is any weaknesses in the system, then you come out dengan recommendation lah. That's why you kena issue representation letter. Bukan representation letter, management letter. You akan issue management letter kepada your client. Beritahu your client what are the weaknesses in the system dan you akan bagi recommendation. Basically you akan issue you will issue this letter kepada audit committee. So audit committee akan take the necessary action and ask BOD to improve dia punya internal control system. Okay. Okay, next one adalah apa yang you kena buat this one kan? Okay, kemudian selepas kita buat risk assessment, the next step what we do adalah kita akan buat the detection. Apa maksud detection? Meaning that kita akan design satu audit procedures so that we be able to detect that material misstatement. Okay, so based on the risk assessment, the auditor should design audit procedure as to have reasonable expectation of detecting material misstatement arising from fraud and error. So kita akan design satu audit procedures and we hope ataupun kita nak design in such a way that we be able to detect that material misstatement. Walaupun bukan kerja you, tetapi in somehow it is part of our responsibility lah to detect fraud, to detect the material misstatement. Audit procedure should be designed to further verify certain area as high risk area. Jadi sebagai auditor kan, basically kita akan untuk klien kita akan agihkan dia kepada 7 cycle, okay? So tak semua cycle ni high risk. Some of the cycle dia punya risk adalah low. some of the cycle, dia punya risk adalah high. Untuk bahagian yang you rasa high risk area, you akan buat detail substantive audit procedures lah. Okay. For the example, katakanlah bahawa kalau management tu dominant by 1%, ataupun anak beranak dia je yang jadi BOD, okay. So the high risk area may be macam for the example like director's claim, excessive claim, ya. Purchase of asset. Kadang-kadang dia beli asset tu tetapi dia guna for dia family benefit ataupun dia terlalu banyak claim untuk entertainment expenses. Okay. Kalau you kerja CSO, you akan dapati ya bahawa sometimes macam especially untuk private company, ya, kadang-kadang dia pergi holiday, dia pergi macam for the example like business trip, ya. Dia pergi business trip, dia akan bawa satu kampung, satu anak beranak dia lah, cucu-cucu dia semua-semua, and everything later on bila dia balik, everything dia akan claim dengan company. Okay, so you kena check lah benda-benda tu ya, entertainment expenses sama ada too much untuk company bayar. Tapi kadang-kadang accountant kena luluskan lah sajalah kan, because sometimes they are the major shareholder of the company. Okay, so you boleh tengok ada example ya kelas. Dah baca ni. Takut nanti lambat sangat habis. Okay, okay. Untuk detection, apa yang you kena buat adalah you kena dapatkan apa yang auditor kena buat ya. You kena accumulate audit evidence. Okay, you kena dapatkan audit evidence. Okay, so macam mana you nak dapatkan audit evidence? So kita ada a few technique that can be used by auditors to obtain the audit evidence. Okay, this one you dah belajar dalam first audit paper ya. I just recap balik ya. So the technique that we can use adalah kita panggil please do CIMA, PDO-CIMA. Macam mana you nak ingat? You ingat please do CIMA lah. Okay, this one adalah some of the audit technique. This one penting ya untuk you tahu PDO-CIMA ni sebab later on soalan akan tanya pasal audit procedures. Okay, apa maksud audit procedures? Audit procedures tu apa yang kita kena buat? Okay, for the example like we check opening balance. Opening balance mesti sama dengan closing balance. Okay, we katakanlah bahawa ada purchase of asset. Kalau ada purchase of asset, you kena buat physical sighting over the asset. Kemudian you kena check documentation. You kena check certificate of ownership. Okay, dan kalau asset tu company tu beli guna bank loan, kena dapatkan confirmation daripada bank. Dan kena dapatkan agreement daripada bank antara company dengan bank. Okay, so those are the audit procedures. Okay, basically kalau soalan audit procedures yang keluar senang untuk student dapat markah kalau you tahu cara nak jawab lah. Tetapi kalau you salah jawab, you langsung tak akan dapat markah. Okay, sebab yang penting audit procedures you kena guna words tu penting ya. You kena guna action words when you answer the questions. Okay, so now we tengok macam mana you nak dapatkan audit evidence. Kita tengok pada PDO. Am I too fast class? Boleh ya? Boleh ya? PDO-CIMA, P adalah physical examination. Physical examination meaning that you kena buat physical sighting. For the example, dia kata dia beli new heavy machinery, okay, so worth 2 million. So you have to go there dan kena buat physical sighting over the asset, okay. Ataupun dia kata, okay, the value of the building increased by 1 million sebab you buat major renovation or you buat extension to the building. So you kena pergi dan buat physical sighting. Physical sighting normally untuk tangible asset. Okay. Kadang-kadang kalau you buat physical sighting is not sufficient, you also need to check the documentation. D adalah untuk documentation. Okay. Katakanlah bahawa dia kata dia beli asset, you kena tengoklah the ownership of the asset. Okay. So you kena tengok dia punya certificate of ownership lah. Okay. Documentation kita ada dua jenis ya. Satu adalah internal documentation and another one adalah external documentation. Internal documentation adalah documentation yang melibat dalam company itu saja. Dia tak akan keluar daripada klien punya tempat. For the example like production report, sales report, okay, ada summary report, that one kita panggil sebagai internal documentation. Kalau external documentation, dia melibatkan ada third party. For the example like agreement, okay, a confirmation daripada agreement ataupun kontrak dengan third party, okay, that one kita panggil sebagai documentation, okay, ataupun any certificate of ownership, that one is also we call it as the documentation, okay. OPDO, O adalah observation, okay, you juga boleh dapatkan information, boleh accumulate the evidence. Alah, susahnya nak cari term. You also can accumulate the evidence by conducting the observation. Okay, observation normally you akan tengok the movement of document from one department to another department. Siapa yang proses those document dan siapa yang authorize those document. Okay, PDO ya. C adalah you juga boleh dapatkan evidence melalui confirmation. Confirmation meaning that kita dapatkan confirmation daripada third party. For the example like bank confirmation, debtors confirmation, creditors confirmation, confirmation from consignee, okay, confirmation daripada lawyers and so on, okay. PDOC, I kat sini ya kelas ya. I adalah inquiry. Inquiry meaning that daripada management lah. Kita akan interview management, kita akan interview staff regarding the internal control system ataupun regarding the process untuk satu-satu dokumen, okay. And last one adalah M adalah mechanical accuracy, okay. Mechanical accuracy meaning that kita akan re-performance. Sometimes kita panggil dia sebagai re-performance. Re-performance ni kita akan buat lagi sekali pengiraan tu. For the example, like kita akan recalculate ataupun kita akan buat re-performance untuk depreciation, accumulated depreciation, profit on disposal, loss on disposal, okay, interest received, interest paid, dividend received, dividend paid, okay. Apa lagi? Accumulated depreciation, ada beritahu ya. Provision for doubtful debt, okay, that one kita akan buat mechanical accuracy ya. So these are the technique yang auditors akan guna in order to accumulate the audit evidence, okay. Ingat ya kelas, selalu ingat bila you buat later on kalau you buat apa ni, bila you buat AAA, advanced assurance auditing, untuk paper ACCA later on pun you still akan guna this thing, okay. Okay, next one adalah the characteristic of fraud. Okay, macam mana you nak tahu mungkin ada fraud, okay. So signs to watch out. That one adalah the red flag lah, okay. Okay, there are 3 factors that contribute kepada fraud adalah management characteristic, operating characteristic, and next one adalah audit engagement characteristic. Okay, this one I pergi laju sikit ya. Management characteristic for the example like dominant by one person. Tak ada proper supervision, no one knows everything. Okay, cuma top management 2-3 orang saja yang knows everything. Okay, high management turnover. Okay, management poor reputation, frequent change the auditors, refuse to follow new accounting guideline, take work home. This one yang biasa orang buat lah ya. Biasa dia kalau dia nak tipu ataupun dia nak manipulate the data, they will take the work home, okay. Refuse to take vacation. Normally kalau you are under investigation, kita akan minta you cuti. Okay. Cuti bayar gaji ya. My friend pernah dapat 6 bulan cuti bergaji penuh. Okay. Because dia sebenarnya masa tu dia bawa under investigation, okay. Kenapa berlaku investigation tu? Because dia proves as voucher worth 200,000. Okay, rupanya dia punya PA dia yang palsukan that voucher. Tapi kadang-kadang bila you ni accountants, you kena buat, there are so many things yang you kena buat, especially pada year end, okay. So dia punya PA pun aware yang pada year end you akan too busy. So in between dia selitkan that voucher 200,000. So due to that, dia kena investigation. So for 6 months dia investigate, bukan saja 200,000, ada lagi lah yang lain tu small item ya. Tetapi management boleh detect sebab one item adalah 200,000, okay. So due to that dia kena diberhentikan kerja lah. Normally accountant itu risiko yang kita kena hadapi lah ya. Kadang-kadang especially kalau you kerja dengan GLC company, okay, kadang-kadang you dapat arahan daripada some of the politician. Walaupun you disagree, bila dia bagi arahan, dia akan bagi arahan dalam bentuk verbal. So dia minta you approve the payment. Kadang-kadang you rasa the document is not sufficient, tetapi dia suruh you approve that payment, okay? So bila you approve the payment, kalau tak jadi apa-apa tak ada masalah. Tetapi if anything happen later on, we are the one yang responsible, okay? Tetapi kadang-kadang we cannot say anything sebab kadang-kadang kalau melibatkan politician sometimes is very difficult untuk kita deal, okay? Kadang-kadang apa yang dia buat adalah dia akan berhentikan kita, dia akan ganti accountant yang baru. So benda tu akan berjalan on and on lah. That's why kalau you nampak, kalau company tu dia keep change dia punya accountant, meaning that there is something wrong with the company, okay? Okay, kadang-kadang ada management yang handle activities which is beyond dia punya responsibility, inadequate system of authorization, or sometimes is due to the lack segregation of duties, okay? Operating industry characteristic, for the example, like client less profitable as compared to other company in the same industry, okay? Ataupun the industry itself decline, okay? Ataupun sometimes due to the nature of the industry, banyak sangat guna cash ataupun banyak sangat guna dia punya inventory move very fast. Kadang-kadang tak sempat nak rekod lagi inventory tu ya, tapi inventory tu dah kena gerak dah, okay? So dalam that situation pun ada berlakunya fraud ataupun error, okay? Next one adalah audit engagement characteristic. For the example, like problem to obtain sufficient audit evidence, missing document, blah blah. Okay, baca lagi kelas ya. Okay, next one. Okay, kemudian apa yang you kena buat sebagai auditors? What are the things that we can do? Okay, so mula-mula sekali sebagai auditor, kalau you jumpa fraud and error, the first thing that we can do adalah we can report kepada management. You boleh report kepada audit committee. Okay. Kemudian you also can report kepada shareholder. You akan report kepada shareholder when we issue the audit report. Tapi kalau you nak report pada shareholder lambat ya. Sebab katakanlah bahawa accounting year ended pada 31st December, you can only issue audit report pada June following year ataupun May following year. Okay. So macam mana you nak report, you akan issue modified opinion lah. Sama ada you nak issue except for opinion, disclaimer opinion ataupun adverse opinion. That one kita akan cover later on. You dah belajar tapi I akan sentuh a little bit dulu tajuk audit report later on. Okay. Kemudian kalau benda tu melibatkan regulator, for the example like client do not follow the some of the statutory requirement. So kita boleh report kepada regulator. For the example, you report pada SSM, Bursa Malaysia. Okay. Ataupun you boleh report kepada bank negara. Last one adalah you also can withdraw daripada engagement. Okay, to management macam mana you report? Bila kita report kepada management, kita akan issue the management letter. Okay, kepada shareholder kita akan issue audit report. Okay, you baca nanti ya kelas ya. Kepada regulator, okay, you boleh report kepada regulator. Okay. Tetapi ingat ya, kalau you nak report kepada regulator, takut jadi macam kes yang serba dynamic tu kan. Okay, auditor should get legal advice on this matter before you report kepada regulator. Kalau tak, management, client boleh sue the auditor. Okay, sebab kita takut kita disclose information yang confidential ataupun yang we should not disclose. Okay, and last one adalah ni seperti apa yang sekarang ni, kalau you tengok current case sekarang adalah antara serba dynamic dengan EY. Serba dynamic ni dia ada dua case ya, satu dengan KPMG dan satu lagi dengan EY. Kadang-kadang susah ya sebab company-company ni adalah GLC. Bila company GLC dia ada political influence, and then some of the political ni they are suka main dirty, okay, because I mean dia dah tak tahulah, bukan dah kata dia orang dirty, tapi sometimes dia dah used to it, okay. So dia rasa macam dia boleh manipulate some of the data, okay. That's why dengan KPMG pun dah lost about 230 million, okay. So sekarang dia tengah take action against EY, okay. So kemudian apa ni, point to stress, apa benda lah ni, let's check. Okay, okay, you kena tahu what is engagement letter. Engagement letter diissue oleh account auditors kepada klien. Okay. Kemudian management representation daripada klien kepada auditor. C ni klien A ni auditor ya. And then last one adalah these are the type of document yang you kena tahu lah. Okay. Management letter adalah antara auditor dengan auditor akan issue kepada klien. A to C. Okay, kat sini dia explain what is engagement letter, apa itu management representation. Baca ya kelas, this one kita akan tengok, kita akan guna banyak management representation letter dalam tajuk completing the audit. Okay, and last one adalah management letter. Management letter kadang-kadang kita panggil dia sebagai letter of weaknesses. Kenapa kita panggil dia letter of weaknesses? Sebab kita akan highlight the weaknesses dalam internal control system. Basically kita banyak fokus pada ICS lah. Okay. So that's all untuk tajuk ini. Okay, any question?
So far no, madam.
Okay. Okay, so alah, sebab Afiq baru masuk ya. Okay, so apa ni? Today kita akan tengok partially. So this topic ada quite lengthy, so I need about 2 weeks untuk cover this topic lah. Okay, so kita akan tengok audit risk, materiality and sampling. Risk and materiality cover dalam final exam lah. Sampling is not covered dalam final exam. So I tak akan cover lagi lah sebab kita dah buat quiz on tajuk sampling. Okay. Okay, now kita tengok audit risk and materiality. Sebenarnya audit risk and materiality dia start daripada slide ni, slide 22. Okay. Yang atas-atas ni kita nak recap balik apa yang you belajar dalam your first audit paper so that you get better understanding about risk and materiality lah. Okay. So mula-mula kita tengok balik apa yang you belajar dalam first audit paper kelas ya. Okay, the audit objective and financial statement edition. Okay. Boy, close the door. Otherwise my voice bergema. Sekejap ya kelas ya. Okay, the audit objective adalah, our main objective adalah to express opinion on the financial statement lah. Okay, sama ada the financial statement show true and fair view. Okay, itu adalah our main objective sebagai auditor. Okay, so in order to meet this objective, it is necessary for the auditors to have specific objective. Kita ada dua ya, kita ada specific audit objective for class of transaction, satu untuk setiap transaction and account balances. Okay, dan untuk account, for each account, the balancing figures tu ya, kita kena ada dia punya objective. Okay, or now known as making a set of assertion about each class of transaction and account balances. Okay, so this one we call it as the financial statement assertion. Okay, so basically in order to achieve ataupun in order to fulfill our responsibility to express opinion on the financial statement, kita kena achieve these two objective dulu lah ya. Satu adalah untuk setiap class of transaction and another one adalah for each account balances. Okay, untuk each account balances normally kita banyak refer kepada balance sheet item. Okay, sebab kita nak ensure that all the asset and liability should be recorded at fair value. Okay, untuk class of transaction kita banyak fokus kepada item-item dalam income statement as well item-item dalam balance sheet. Okay, at the same time management juga ada dia punya management assertion. Management pun kena buat pengakuan lah. Okay, pengakuan bila dia issue representation letter, dia kena state clearly they are the one yang prepare the financial statement. It is their responsibility ya. BOD responsibility to prepare the financial statement and they believe that the financial statement that they prepare show true and fair view. Okay, basically benda tu you dah belajar detail sangat dalam your first audit paper. So kalau I tak silap, tajuk audit planning tu you ambil masa dekat sebulan untuk cover tajuk audit planning. Okay. So I just nak recap apa yang penting saja sebab I nak biar you all boleh ingat balik the terms yang mungkin you akan guna when you answer the questions later on. Okay. So audit objective, macam mana kita nak tengok audit assertions, this one adalah more on management assertion lah ya. Management assertion kita cuba matchkan management assertion and audit objective. Okay. So management assertion kita ada cover MD, cover managing directors. Okay. So 7 pengakuan yang management akan buat. Okay, when they prepare the financial statement lah. C adalah in term of completeness. Okay, dia akan buat assertions yang okay, where everything dia record completely. Okay. O adalah occurrence. Occurrence meaning that kalau ada macam the transaction yang relate untuk current year, dia record for that year. Kalau transaction tu untuk following year, will be recorded following year lah. Okay, they take into consideration kalau ada accrued expenses, prepaid expenses, revenue received in advance ataupun receivable. Okay, that one O. V adalah in term of valuation. Dia akan state clearly that all the asset and liability be value at fair value. For the example, like asset, kita kena tolak dulu accumulated depreciation and show the net book value. Okay. Kalau ada liability pun, it should be shown at net book value. V ya. Existence adalah, existence refer kepada, this one adalah untuk account balance only ya. Account balance only, this one adalah more fokus kepada balance sheet. Okay. Existence referring kepada all asset and liability exist at the end of the year. That's why bila kita tengok accounting, kita punya balance sheet, kan, tajuk balance sheet adalah balance sheet asset. Benda tu ada pada 31 Disember. Asset and liability exist. Okay. Asset 31st December. Okay. R adalah right and obligation. Right and obligation referring kepada the asset, we have the right over our asset. And then all the liability adalah our obligation. Client punya obligation. Okay. Kemudian M adalah measurement and disclosure. Okay, disclosure adalah referring kepada notes to the account lah. Everything kita disclose, benda-benda yang material, we disclose dalam notes to the accounts. Basically MD ni dia benda yang sama ya, measurement and disclosure. Okay. So kat sini dia explain detail kelas apa maksud cover MD, apa maksud existence, apa maksud right and obligation dan apa maksud valuation. Okay. Occurrence, relevant period. Okay. So kita cuma record apa yang berlaku in the current year sahaja. Okay. Kemudian completeness. Okay. There is no unrecorded asset, liability transaction, other transaction, measurement. Okay. Kemudian disclosure. Okay, now kita tengok dalam audit planning, there are 4 phase of the audit planning. Nombor 1 adalah client acceptance and retention. Mula-mula you kena decide sama ada kalau ada new client, you kena buat investigation. Okay, you akan buat investigation, you kena tengok client punya financial stability, your competency, your staff. Okay, management integrity. Okay, you akan buat some investigation sebelum you accept the appointment. Termasuklah juga you kena buat ethical requirement. You kena communicate dengan previous auditor. Itu untuk new client. Untuk your existing client, you also need to do the investigation. Okay, before you accept the reappointment. For the example, katakanlah bahawa maybe ada factors intimidation. Ada pressure daripada klien, okay, ataupun ada factors yang akan affect you punya integrity ataupun you punya independency. Okay, so maybe you akan decide ataupun you akan buat decision you tak nak accept lagi the reappointment. Okay, so selepas you decide you nak accept the appointment ataupun the reappointment, kita akan prepare the engagement letter. Itu adalah the first phase. Okay, pre-plan kita panggil, before you accept the appointment, those are the things yang you kena buat lah. Kemudian selepas tu you kena buat audit planning. Okay, selepas you buat audit planning, kita akan buat detection. Detection meaning that kita akan perform the audit test. Okay, Masa kita perform audit test, this one adalah kita akan accumulate audit evidence. Kat sinilah you akan determine audit risk, materiality, berapa banyak sample size yang you nak kena buat, okay? As well as the type of evidence that you required. And kat sinilah you kena apply PDOCI and A, okay? Audit technique yang you akan guna untuk accumulate the evidence, okay? Selepas you accumulate the evidence, then you believe that the evidence yang you accumulate be able to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statement free daripada material misstatement. Okay? Kemudian you akan report kepada shareholder by issuing the audit report. Okay, ingat lagi tak kelas benda-benda lah ni? Ingat tak you belajar dalam your first audit paper? Tapi yang you belajar dalam first audit paper tu macam detail lah lagi ya pasal audit planning ya. Okay, now we go pada step by step lah. Okay, masa this one adalah pre-plan. Okay, so apa yang you kena buat? You kena buat client evaluation. Apa yang you kena check? Ethical consideration. Kemudian barulah kita prepare engagement letter. Okay. Kemudian kita akan obtain knowledge about the client business. Kita akan perform analytical procedures. Make preliminary judgment about materiality. Yang kita nak fokus dalam this topic adalah this one. Materiality and audit risk. Okay. Tapi you kena faham semua sebab soalan dalam case study dia akan cover everything. Okay. So you kena faham the step and the terms yang you kena pakai, okay? Kemudian you need to understand client punya internal control system. Kat sini apa yang you kena buat adalah kita akan buat during interim audit. Kita ada dua jenis audit ya. Satu adalah interim audit, another one kita panggil final audit. Final audit tu kita akan buat towards the end of the year lah. Okay, kita banyak fokus kepada item-item dalam balance sheet, okay? Pada during interim audit, kita banyak fokus kepada completeness, kita akan review klien punya internal control system, okay? Dan kita akan fokus kepada item-item di dalam income statement, okay? Kemudian the last one adalah you akan develop preliminary audit strategy. Kat sini you akan develop the audit program. Audit program ni kita ada dua ya. Satu kita ada tailored audit program. Satu lagi kita ada generalized audit program. Okay. So, analytical procedures ni, do you know what is analytical procedures, kelas? Pernah dengar tak perkataan analytical procedures?
Pernah ada.
Apa dia?
Pernah.
Pernah tak? Apa dia tu? Rasa-rasa. Ratio, okay? Yang you calculate ratio tu adalah part of the analytical procedures, okay? So, macam kita calculate current ratio, asset, liquidity ratio, profitability ratio, efficiency ratio, market ratio, as well as leverage ratio. Yang you duk belajar masa paper first finance paper, okay? That one adalah part of the analytical procedures, okay? Untuk analytical procedures, this one you kena tahulah ya. Untuk analytical procedures, basically you dah belajar dalam first audit paper ya. You akan buat dalam 3 stages, okay? Dalam 3 phase. Satu you akan buat during planning. Kan tadi kita cakap pasal audit planning kan? So masa audit planning kita akan buat analytical procedures because you try to understand client punya performance. You nak tengok client punya performance this year and prior year. Ataupun you nak compare client punya performance dengan other company in the same industry. Okay. Second one adalah kita juga akan conduct analytical procedures during detection. During detection, kat sini kita nak detect if there is ada possibility, ada material misstatement. Okay, kita nak detect sama ada there is a possibility wujudnya material misstatement. Okay, and the last one, kita juga akan conduct analytical procedures during the final stage. Okay, final stage ni before we issue the audit report, you kena conduct lagi sekali analytical procedures. Okay, kat sini you kena nak tengok klien punya ability to sini ya. You nak tengok klien punya ability to continue as going concern. Boleh tak lagi klien ni survive at least in the next 12 months. Okay? Sebelum issue audit report, buat lagi sekali analytical procedures. Okay? Sebab kita nak bukan apa, it is our responsibility lah ya. Sebab kita nak tengok sama ada klien tu be able to continue in foreseeable future. Okay, kalau ada isu yang menunjukkan that klien ni tak boleh nak survive in future, so that one you kena highlightkan dalam your audit report. That one kita masukkan dalam KAM lah, Key Audit Matters. Okay, so kena tahu benda-benda ni ya kelas. So, kadang-kadang lecture silent benda-benda ni tapi these are the things yang you kena tahu. So, sometimes lecture assume you dah tahu benda-benda ni. Okay, tapi biasalah. Kalau you dah lama tinggal, you akan lupa. So that's why I just nak recap balik benda-benda ni dengan you all. Okay. Okay, next one kita akan obtain knowledge about client business. Okay, these are the things yang kita akan buat untuk kita dapatkan knowledge pasal client business. Ingat ya, you bukan saja kena tahu pasal your client, you also need to know about the industry. Okay. So you kena tahulah pasal ekonomi and industry within the entity operate. Okay. Major industry policy, the type of business, product and services provide by client, dia punya internal control structure, kalau ada regulator, is there any regulator that they need to follow, macam TNB kan? TNB kalau dia nak naikkan tarif electricity, dia kena dapatkan approval daripada parlimen. Okay? Macam bank, financial institution, for any decision yang dia nak buat, dia kena dapatkan, dia kena follow the regulation daripada bank negara and so on. Kemudian nature of report to be filled with regulator agency. Okay. Kemudian other specific knowledge yang you boleh dapat, yang you kena dapat. Okay, kenapa you kena dapat all this knowledge? Because we try to understand our client. You kena faham dulu client you before you start the audit. Okay, determine the existence of a related party transaction. Okay, kalau company tu adalah group company, consider the impact of applicable accounting standard, consider the law and regulation, consider mungkin wujud fraud and error. Kadang-kadang some company dia punya transaction adalah very complex sebab dia melibatkan banyak subsidiary company, foreign company dan involve foreign currency. So you kena consider lah, maybe ada fraud and error. Okay? Dan before kita audit, kita kena review prior year working paper. Okay, review industry and business data, minutes of meeting. You kena buat visit. Okay, you kena buat tour ke dalam company dengan klien you. Okay, kalau klien tu ada cawangan tempat-tempat lain, go and visit the branches. Okay, kalau cawangan dia dekat other overseas pun, maybe you kena pergilah. Okay. That's why auditor ni banyak travel kadang-kadang. And then you boleh dapatkan information daripada management inquiry. You masih ingat lagi ya? PDOCIMA. I adalah inquiry of management. So you juga boleh dapatkan information daripada audit committee. PDOCIMA, always ingat ya kelas. Guna the terms bila you jawab soalan nanti ya. Kemudian you boleh perform analytical procedures lepas you faham client punya business and industry. Kita akan perform analytical procedures. Okay. Analytical procedures you boleh perform during the planning stage. Okay, during the planning stage because kita nak try to understand client position in the client position lah. Okay, sebab some client, you kena ingat ya, some of your client adalah they are the follower in the industry, and some client they are the leader in the industry. Okay, sebab it will help you to lebih fokus, and then it will help you to determine which area yang you kena increasekan the sample size and which area yang you boleh reducekan the sample size. Okay. Kalau kat sini dia explain about pasal apa ya, apa maksud analytical procedures. Analytical procedures adalah kita akan calculate significant ratio and trends lah. Okay, bukan saja ratio yang you belajar dalam finance, okay, tetapi bila kita cakap analytical procedures adalah macam we compare actual cost and standard cost. Okay, we compare budgeted output dengan actual output. Okay, dan kalau I'm sure some of you pun ada buat audit ya. Kadang-kadang bila kita analyze klien punya income statement, katakanlah bahawa klien punya income statement, what do they have here adalah dia ada gross profit. Sini kan gross profit dia ya. Dan dia ada list of expenditure. Okay. Untuk setiap expenditure ni kan, kadang-kadang you akan calculate dia punya percentage kepada sale. Okay, for the example like salary, how many percent? Okay, repair and maintenance, commission, kita akan check dia punya percentage kepada sale. Okay, kemudian you boleh compare this percentage untuk last year and current year and prior year. So kadang-kadang kalau katakanlah bahawa if your turnover increase, basically logically kita assume that our expenses pun akan increase lah, okay? Tetapi in term of percentage, it should be more or less the same, okay? This one is also part of the analytical procedures. Okay, basically apa-apa bila once you calculate percentage, bila you compare the percentage, that one adalah part of the analytical procedures. Okay. Normally kalau junior level dia jarang buat analytical procedures ya. Normally yang akan buat analytical procedures adalah senior onward, senior lah ya. Audit senior lah yang akan buat. Okay. Nature of analytical procedures adalah you buat comparison. You compare in entity financial information, for the example, you compare dengan prior year. You compare, dia banyak jenis comparison yang you buat ya. Satu you boleh compare dengan prior year. Satu you boleh compare dengan budget, okay. Satu you boleh compare dengan industry average. Satu you boleh identify unexpected fluctuation, ataupun you boleh identify kalau ada banyak sangat different between this year and prior year, okay. Bila kita kata analytical procedures, termasuklah you calculate the gross profit, net profit margin. Dia ada 5 types of ratio ya. Liquidity, kalau you masih ingat, kita ada liquidity, kita ada asset test ratio and current ratio, profitability, efficiency. Efficiency ni lah yang you ada apa ni? Inventory turnover, okay, inventory turnover, average collection period, TIE under leverage ya. Leverage ratio, bawah leverage ratio you ada TIE, time interest earn, dan you juga ada debt ratio. Okay, kemudian next one, ini 1, 2, 3, 4. Nombor 5 adalah market ratio. Dalam market ratio adalah dividend yield, earning per share, dividend yield, dividend per share. Okay, these are the things yang you akan calculate. This one adalah part of the ratio analysis. Okay. Kemudian the purpose of the analytical procedures adalah untuk masa planning, tadi kan ada explain analytical procedures kita akan buat 3 stages ya. Planning, detection, as well as final before we sign the audit report. Okay, so during planning kita buat analytical procedures because it will help us to determine the nature, timing and extent of the audit procedures. Okay, So yang lain-lain you boleh baca lah. Okay. Okay, this one adalah the example of the analytical procedures. Okay, dia bagi you more example. Okay, next one adalah preliminary judgment about materiality. Kemudian kita akan buat determine sama ada benda tu, kita akan buat our test in order to determine sama ada the item is material or not material. Kemudian kita akan tengok audit risk, kita akan tengok internal control system dan kita akan tengok the audit program. Okay. Set materiality and assess acceptable risk to determine what is the planning materiality. You kena determine what is our materiality level. Dia dua benda yang berlainan. Materiality satu, materiality level another terms. Maksud dia lain. Guna terms yang betul when you answer the question. Dan bila you baca soalan pun check betul-betul terms yang dia pakai. Apa maksud materiality? Materiality adalah kalau benda tu be able to influence the user to make the decision, kita panggil benda tu adalah material. Another one adalah materiality level. Okay. Maksud materiality level adalah kita kena determine what is the materiality. Okay, for the example, katakanlah bahawa di transaction yang kita ada kat sini adalah daripada 20,000 kepada 200,000. Okay, jadi katakanlah bahawa kita rasa the materiality level should be 50,000. Okay, ataupun you set materiality level 50k. Jadi you akan pilih sample size yang you pilih adalah daripada 50k onwards. Okay. The item below 50k kita consider sebagai not material. Okay, ingat ya kelas ya? Beza ya, materiality and materiality level. This one adalah kita punya materiality level. Siapa yang decide materiality level? Senior auditor. Macam mana dia decide? Sometimes kita boleh base kepada guideline yang diberi oleh MIA, or sometimes dia akan guna dia punya professional judgment. Faham ya? Okay, mula-mula you kena faham dulu beza antara materiality and materiality level. Sebab lepas ni banyak lagi terms yang you akan jumpa ya. Okay, could be done by looking at the financial statement. Macam mana you nak determine the materiality and materiality level. You boleh tengok figures yang ada dalam financial statement. Okay, so selepas you identify dia punya internal control system. Kadang-kadang mula-mula you kata okay, materiality level kita set 50,000. So bila you evaluate client punya internal control system, then you notice banyak sangat weaknesses dalam internal control system. Kalau banyak weaknesses maksudnya dia punya information is less reliable. Okay? Ataupun mungkin banyak berlaku fraud and error. So dalam that situation, apa yang auditor akan buat adalah dia akan kurangkan the materiality level. Say, okay, sekarang kita kurangkan materiality level to 30,000. Jadi item-item yang 30,000 and above will be selected as our sample size. Faham ya kelas ya? Materiality level ni dia bukanlah static ya. You can change it based on your evaluation. Boleh faham sampai situ kelas?
Boleh, madam.
Boleh ya? Faham ya? Beza ya materiality and materiality level. Ingat jangan guna benda tu sama. Okay? Tak sama. Okay? And last one adalah kita akan develop the audit program. Audit program kita ada dua. Satu adalah standard audit program and another one adalah tailored audit program. Apa itu audit program? Audit program adalah the list of audit procedures. Okay, apa yang you kena buat step by step. Okay, untuk sales, what are the things that you have to do for sales? Untuk payroll, apa yang you kena buat untuk payroll? Okay, that one we call it as the audit program. Bila you buat audit, always refer dalam audit program. Okay, at the end of the day, you akan tengok audit program tu, you akan tick lah. So dia akan letak list yes, no. Kalau you dah buat, you akan tick bahagian yes. Okay. Kalau tak, you akan tick no lah. Ataupun sometimes it's not applicable. Okay. Audit program kita ada dua. Satu adalah standard audit program. Standard audit program meaning that kita guna the same audit program untuk klien-klien kita. Okay, for all of our client lah. Okay, tailored audit program adalah kita guna audit program untuk one particular industry ataupun untuk one particular client saja. So maybe client tu terlalu banyak bezanya dengan our other client. So kita akan design satu audit program for that client. Okay, kadang-kadang kita juga panggil tailored audit program. So kadang-kadang kita design on certain part aja. Okay, yang lain kita guna standard audit program, on certain part kita akan design untuk that client saja. Katakanlah bahawa client tu dia punya IT, dia change very fast, okay? Jadi on that particular part kita akan design satu audit program untuk client tu saja. That one kita panggil sebagai tailored audit program. Okay. Okay, dah habis tajuk audit planning ya. Sekarang kita nak fokus kepada audit materiality as well as audit risk. Okay. Today I just nak cover audit materiality saja. Audit materiality tak banyak ya, sampai slide 28 aja. Okay. Okay, baca. Boleh pause ya kelas? Okay. So I hope boleh sempat habis. So, some of it I dah mention sebelum benda tu, okay. So we can go very fast lah. Okay, baca dulu what is materiality. Okay. Materiality, dia punya keywords adalah the item could influence the users to make the decision. Could influence a person to make the decision. Materiality concept adalah very subjective. For one person, the item is material. For another person, the item is not material. Macam anak I kata, oh album K-pop dia hilang. Dia menangis-nangis. Bagi I, hilang-hilang lah. Okay, nampak macam mana kan? Because for me, that one is not material. For her, that one adalah material. Faham ya kelas ya? Materiality adalah very subjective, okay? For one person, RM200 hilang, missing. Oh, okay. Kat mana I letak, tak ingat, okay? Tetapi for another person, 200 ataupun RM20 hilang adalah material for them. Okay? I bagi satu example. Katakanlah bahawa kita ada dua company. Let's say you are the investor. Okay, kita ada company A, company B. Company A profit before tax 10 million. Company B profit before tax 100 million. Company A, dia understated dia punya provision for doubtful debt by 5 million. Company B pun understated the provision for doubtful debt 5 million. Okay, let's say after the adjustment, the profit before tax untuk company B adalah 5 million dan profit before tax untuk company B adalah 95 million. Katakanlah bahawa you are the investor, you nak invest dekat A. Okay, bila you nampak profit 10 million, maybe you nak invest. Tetapi bila you nampak profit is only 5 million, you mungkin fikir, you mungkin think twice. Okay, maybe you tak akan invest. Jadi, 5 million provision for doubtful debt in company A adalah material. Okay. Tetapi untuk company B, mula-mula you tengok profit dia 10 million. Kemudian after adjustment, the profit adalah 95 million. So it doesn't make any difference for you. Okay. Okay, 100 million pun I invest, 95 million pun I invest. Meaning that 5 million in company B adalah immaterial. Okay. IBM, dia pernah loss of 5 million dalam one transaction and they decide that 5 million adalah not material. Okay. Sime Darby pernah hilang 26 million okay, dalam satu transaction and they decide dalam audit report mention that 26 million, the management kata the amount is not material. Because Sime Darby, dia punya company adalah very big. Harta dia, capital dia pun berbillion. Bukan million lagi ya, billion dia punya harta. Okay. So the amount is not material. Faham ya kelas ya? Materiality adalah very subjective. Okay. Faham apa maksud materiality? Okay. Materiality adalah auditors, the meaning of materiality adalah auditors preliminary, for auditors point of view of your lawyer, auditors preliminary estimate of the smallest amount of misstatement that could be material to the client financial statement. This one we consider sebagai materiality level. Materiality level adalah the smallest amount yang kita consider sebagai material when the client prepare the financial statement. Okay. Bagi accountant, materiality concept is very important sebab untuk accountant differentiate between important and unimportant item. Okay. Normally kita just fokus kepada important matters. Okay. If material misstatement exists, the auditor should bring the matters kepada client attention. Ingat ya kelas, jangan guna perkataan misstatement if material misstatement. Okay. So, kita akan bawa benda ni kepada top management, kepada audit committee so that they have to take action to rectify the misstatement. Okay, so selepas dia rectify the misstatement, barulah kita boleh issue our opinion on the financial statement. Okay. Okay, concept of materiality. Concept of materiality, kenapa wujudnya materiality? Normally due to the fraud ataupun due to the error. Okay. While financial statement may contain misstatement, but not so large. We do expect ada misstatement, tetapi we don't expect the material misstatement. Okay, sebab kalau ada material misstatement, dia akan influence the users to make the decision. Macam mana kita nak detect this material misstatement? So, kita akan guna sampling teknik lah. Okay. So, bila kita guna sampling teknik pun, kita kena tengoklah cost and benefit. Okay. Source of a material misstatement, there are two factors contribute kepada material misstatement. That one adalah fraud and error. Okay. Okay. Okay, tengok this one. Contoh dia kelas. Concept of materiality. Materiality adalah very subjective. For one person, for one company, 1 million is material. For another company, 1 million is not material. Okay. Base are needed. Macam mana kita nak evaluate materiality? Okay. Basically, kalau kita nak determine materiality, kita akan base kepada sama ada profit before tax, sales, total asset, ataupun kita boleh guna total equity. Okay. So, normally kita akan, dia mesti ada basis lah macam mana you nak determine sama ada benda tu material ataupun tak material. Okay. MIA come out dengan threshold macam mana nak determine sama ada the item is material or not material. Okay. So, this one kita panggil sebagai threshold of on-materiality. So, MIA come out dengan quantitative guideline as well as the qualitative guideline. Okay. Dalam quantitative guideline to determine sama ada the item is material and not material. Tetapi basically auditor akan guna this guideline campur dengan you punya professional judgement. Sebab this one guideline saja ya. Okay, you boleh guna based on the turnover. 1% of the turnover. Katakanlah bahawa your turnover adalah 10 million. Turnover 10 million. 1% of the 10 million, berapa ya kelas? 100,000. Am I right? Sorry, salah ni ya. 1% of 10 million. Kalau 10% 1 million kan? Kalau 1% 100,000 lah, betul tak?
Oh, ya.
Betul, 100,000 ya. Jadi 100,000, item yang below 100,000 kita consider sebagai not material. Item yang above 100,000 kita akan kira sebagai material item. Kita akan pilih item-item yang 100,000 and above, okay, sebagai our sample size. Boleh faham ya kelas macam mana you nak based on turnover? Boleh ya? Okay. Kemudian you juga boleh guna profit before tax. Profit before tax 5% to 10% of the profit before tax. Okay. Katakanlah bahawa your profit before tax you adalah 5 million. Okay. You sama ada boleh guna 5% ataupun 10%. Okay. Kita akan guna 5%. Katakanlah bahawa 5% of 5 million. That's why dalam exam you kena bawa calculator. Okay. 5% of 5 million adalah, kalau 10%, 50,000 kan? Berapa jadi kelas?
250.
250,000. 250?
250,000.
250,000, betul ya? Betul.
Betul.
Okay. So, item yang 250,000 kita consider sebagai material, and above material, and below kita consider sebagai not material. Ataupun you boleh guna 10%. Nanti I tunjuk kat you, under what situation you guna 5% and under what situation you guna 10%. Abang jauh sikit lah ya. Kalau you guna 10% of the profit before tax, 10% on 5 million, so ia akan jadi 500,000. Betul ke? Bukan 50,000 ke? 10% of 5 million. Betul lah kot ya? 500,000. Betul ya kelas ya?
500,000.
500,000 ya. Okay. So kalau you guna 10% of the profit before tax, meaning that 500,000 adalah you punya materiality level. You akan pilih item-item 500,000 and above sebagai you punya sample size. Okay. Okay, dalam soalan, okay, dia akan bagi you figures dan dia akan bagi scenario about internal control system. Sebab you kena decide sama ada I nak guna 5% of the profit before tax ataupun I nak guna 5% of the profit profit before tax. Okay. Kalau company tu ada good internal control system, you boleh guna 10%. Kalau good ICS, company tu very sound company, management good integrity, okay, ada good reputation, so you boleh guna 10% of the profit before tax. Jadi your materiality level at the higher level lah. The higher the materiality level, so in this case kita akan accumulate less audit evidence. Okay. Tetapi kalau company tu dia poor internal control system, ICS, so you kena guna 5% of the profit before tax. Okay. Kalau poor internal control system, banyak judgement, banyak tukar estimated figures, management ada integrity issue, okay. And then prior year review, the company ada material misstatement, okay. So you kena guna 5% of the profit before tax, okay. Dalam soalan, dia akan beritahu all these things. So, you kena decide sama ada benda tu material ataupun tak material. Dan you kena decide sama ada you nak guna 5% ataupun you nak guna 10%. Okay. Normally, for these two item adalah untuk income statement punya item lah. Okay. Untuk balance sheet punya item, kita akan base kepada total asset ataupun total equity. Sama ada you nak guna 1% of the total asset ataupun 1% of the total equity. Of the total equity 1%, you akan guna kalau dia ada good internal control system. Okay. Internal control system. Kalau poor internal control system, so you akan guna 1% of the total as terbalik. Terbalik ya kelas ya? Okay. Kalau good internal control system, you akan set dia punya materiality level tinggi ya. Kalau the better you punya internal control system, the higher will be the materiality level dan kita akan accumulate less audit evidence. Kalau higher will be on total asset lah kan. So this one adalah good ICS. Kalau poor ICS, kita akan based on 1% of the total equity. Okay. Itu adalah quantitative guideline. Okay, faham kelas? Tapi ingat ya, this one cumalah guideline. Tapi normally auditor akan guna this guideline plus minus dengan dia punya professional judgment. Okay, ada nak habis ke dah ni? Okay. Next one, shall we proceed? Boleh ya?
Boleh, Madam.
Now kita tengok qualitative factor. Maksud qualitative factors adalah benda tu tak material. Katakanlah bahawa you punya materiality level, you dah set to 20,000 sebagai materiality level. Item-item yang less than 20,000 kita consider sebagai not material. Katakanlah bahawa ya. Okay, tetapi under certain situation, walaupun benda tu small amount, tetapi disebabkan oleh all these factor, benda tu akan jadi material. Okay, for the example, let's say amount involving fraud. Katakanlah bahawa benda tu 8,000 saja, tetapi involving fraud. Okay, walaupun benda ni 8,000 is not material, kita punya based on our guideline tadi ya, tetapi is because of it is due to fraud, benda tu akan jadi material. Okay, so kita kena pilih benda ni as part of our sample size. Okay. For example, misstatement of inventory amount, if the misstatement is due to fraud is more serious rather than misstatement due to error. Kalau benda ni due to error is not material. Tetapi kalau benda ni due to fraud, dia akan jadi material. Okay, satu ya. Number 2 adalah small amount of misstatement could be material if bad consequences arising from contractual obligation. Okay, again, katakanlah bahawa your materiality level adalah 20,000. Okay, tetapi let's say you nak dapatkan bank loan. Okay, bank kata, okay, kalau you nak dapatkan loan boleh, tetapi you have to maintain your current ratio 1:1. Okay, let's say currently apa yang you ada adalah you ada current asset 80,000, current liability, okay lah katalah current asset 90,000, 90,000, current liability 100,000. So bila kita calculate current ratio adalah 0.9 to 1. Betul ya kelas ya? Current asset over current liability. Betul ya kelas ya? Now, you sekarang, you nak cuba fulfill bank punya requirement sebab bank kata, okay, dia cuma bagi you credit kalau you boleh maintain your current ratio 1:1. Jadi apa yang management client ni buat adalah dia ubah some of the information, dia ubah dia punya current asset. For the example, dia reducekan provision for doubtful debt, okay? Ataupun dia manipulate some of the figures yang ada dalam dia punya inventory. Okay, so dia increasekan dia punya current asset daripada 100,000, dia jadikan daripada 90,000, dia jadikan 100,000. Dia just tambah 10,000 saja. 10,000 bagi kita sebenarnya not material, tetapi in this situation, bila dia ubah 10,000, dia boleh maintain dia punya current ratio 1:1, so dia be able to get loan daripada bank. So under that situation, that 10,000 adalah material. Faham ya kelas ya? Boleh?
Boleh, madam.
Okay, next one adalah misstatement that are immaterial tetapi can be material kalau they affect a trend in earning. For the example, like earning per share. For the example, for the past 5 years, earning increased 5% per annum. Katakanlah bahawa you dah promise dengan investor to increase the earning by, ataupun to increase the profit 5% per year. Okay. But income for this year decline by 1%. Katakanlah bahawa income this year, you cuma dapat 4% saja, increase by 4%, ya. So, apa yang you buat adalah you akan manipulate the data dalam you punya income statement. Reducekan expenditure lah dan increasekan revenue so that you boleh maintain 5% trend you. Okay. Kadang-kadang the adjustment yang you buat tak banyak. Maybe you just buat adjustment sebanyak tak sampai 20,000. Okay. Benda tu tak material. Tetapi dia akan affect you punya trend in earning. So the item akan jadi material. Okay. Last one adalah the item is immaterial tetapi dia still need to disclose dalam notes to the account. And then you fail to disclose it dalam notes to the account. Okay. So these are the qualitative factors that may contribute kepada materiality. Okay, done ya? So, I rasa dah habis kot. Yang lain-lain ni ada ulang benda ni. Okay? Ni this one illustration, example yang 5% and 10% tadi ya. Under what situation you kena guna 5% and under what situation you kena guna 10%. Okay, sama lah juga ni ya. Okay, that's all for today. Okay, next week, Monday. Monday kita akan buat test, okay. So, please ingat ya, test kita akan start pada pukul, apa dah lupa, dah pukul apa ya? 1:30 kan? Okay. Dan guideline ada bagi, baca guideline. Okay, dan baca juga macam mana you nak kena save you punya ni. And then please convert kepada PDF. Kalau you tak convert pada PDF, basically I tak boleh nak terima jawapan you ya. Sebab kalau you tak convert pada PDF, is not your answer tu macam tak valid lah, okay. So convert kepada PDF, okay. So and then Isnin depan, Jumaat depan, I akan cover tajuk risk. Tajuk risk tu dia very lengthy dan dia tak adalah susah, tapi dia banyak sangat terms and relationship yang you kena faham. Okay. So do you have any question, class?
No, madam.
Okay, so kalau tak ada soalan, sebab some of you maybe ada kelas after this. So that's all for today. Okay, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you,
Okay,
madam.
madam.
Have a
Thank
nice
you,
day.
madam.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, all the best for your test petang ni.
Thank you, madam.
Okay,
Okay,
welcome.
madam. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, bye.
Bye, madam.
Bye. Ada soalan ya? So I end dulu. Okay, bye.